Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to do a PvP video because the new season is up. It's a 3v3 season, and while queuing up casually I found out that the Scourge might be a bit too strong for this game mode. In this game, for example, we were 5 Scourges out of 6 players, so I wanted to try to break down why the Scourge is so good in this specific game mode, which is the 3v3 in PvP. Scourge has a very simple skill set, and by simple I mean that you can really smash your keyboard pressing every skill almost randomly and still be effective, because as you can see the AoEs are huge and are almost unlimited. You run stuff, you have your shades, you have wells, you have your ghastly breach, and you have also a lot of sustain for yourself and also for your allies. If you place your skills properly, you can apply a lot of barrier, and each time you apply barrier you also remove conditions, so you can sustain really both power build and both conditions build for you and for your allies, and also you can deal a decent amount of damage while also having a nice tool to revive your allies. Before starting, I want to point out that I am not a pro PvP player, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. The best achievement I could achieve is Baron of the Arena, which is I think the top 100 in the game in a PvP season at the end of the season, which is not bad, but still it's not even that good, because considering how small the population is in this game and the competition is not really there. So I think maybe I know the game better than most players, but there are many players which are also better than me. So if you don't aim to reach like legendary rank or maybe the high platinum, I think the Scourge works well for gold and maybe low platinum, because people here don't really know how to deal with the Scourge, and also maybe it's because the class is just too strong at the moment, even if it received quite some nerfs lately. I just finished my placement games. I won 12 of them and lost 3 of them. I know it's a small sample, but I think it's fair to say that the Scourge can work really well in 3v3, because the AoEs are just big and they are not very easy to dodge unless the people move around, and the game mode with the 3v3 is not bound to the nodes, so there are no points to capture. You just need to kill the allies and the enemies, and to survive and to keep your allies alive. So I think in 3v3 and maybe 2v2 the Scourge is kinda strong. This is the build I have been using during all the games. Some utilities might change, but I will cover all of them. So let's start from Blood Magic, then Soul Reaping, then Scourge. On Blood Magic we have this trait here, which is nice. I want to comment it because you will leave a mark each time you dodge, and this mark only spawns if you are in combat, and also it applies regeneration in AoE and also applies bleeding and gives you life force thanks to this trait here, the soul marks. And also this is very useful if you are about to use a very important skill and you have blindness on your conditions. You can dodge, so you waste the blindness on the mark from the dodge, and then you can use your important skill which you were about to use. Then we run Ritual of Life. Cast Lesser Well of Blood when reviving an ally. Wells of Blood revive allies every pulse. So this is very useful to revive our allies and also heal ourselves while resting the allies. Then here we have some Siphon Health when we hit a foes. Then Vampiric Presence. You and your nearby allies siphon health with attacks. This effect increases while in Shroud. You enter Shroud with your F5, in case you don't know. And you have this additional damage for yourself and for your allies, and also additional some siphon healing, and it kinda stacks up in a long fight, which can happen, so it's not to underestimate. Then we have Transfusion. Basically we press our F4, and when we press it, we will teleport every ally which is in down state at the moment to ourselves with a teleport distance of 600, and we will pulse some healing around us and also some revival for the downies around us. So it really helps reposition your allies from bad spots to yourself. Let's say your ally, this guy is your downed ally, you press F4 here, you will teleport him to you, and there is line of sight here, your enemies cannot hit you, and you can res him by pressing F. Then soul reaping, we have soul marks, which makes our staff marks unblockable, which is very nice because there are many guardians in this game mode and they spam Aegis like hell, so we can bypass those Aegis with this, and also it will apply some life force, which is very needed. The only downside of this build, basically, of the Scourge is the continuum life force you need, and you won't have a lot of life force. Sometimes you will have your F2, F3, F4 and F5 ready, but you will not have your life force. Then we have Shroud skills gain reduced recharge, very nice to apply more barriers, more res, more damage, more conditions, more condi removal. Vitality and also incoming healing is increased, very nice. Maximum life force is increased, and also here we have eternal life, gain life force every interval up to the threshold when not in Shroud, gain protection when you enter Shroud. So protection is very needed when we enter Shroud to bypass some of the power build damage against us, and also we get continuous life force whenever we are in combat up to the threshold, which is 10%, and it's nice. You will see that extra life force is kinda needed. On the Scourge trait line, we run Abrasive Grit, granting an ally a barrier, removes conditions, afflicting them, and grants might. This is a very strong trait because we will apply many barriers. As you can see, like every F1 from us will apply barrier, and also every barrier will remove a condition and also apply 2 stacks of might. This really helps with the damage because might is very strong on our allies and even on ourselves, of course. And also, most importantly, the conditions removed are very needed because there is a condition meta right now which is like kinda cancerous, so removing conditions is always appreciated, and I will explain later which barrier skills you have to do this. Then here we have Sandstorm Shroud. Basically our F5 doesn't do damage around us continuously, but it will form an expanding thingy which will explode at the end and will do Boon Strip and also extra barrier and also grant protection, and it's a pulsing barrier for you and for your party. It's very nice to have, very strong. And also, as you can see, there are like 3 or 4 pulses with this skill, and every pulse will remove conditions and apply 2 stacks of might to the affected allies, which is very strong. Then here we have Desert Empowerment. Manifest Sand Shade grants a barrier, so basically is your F1 to allies near it. When you apply barrier, grant boons to the affected target. So we press F1, we get barrier, and also we get might for this trait, and also with this trait we get alacrity for ourselves and also for our allies. Let's see on this guy. Hello, you are on YouTube right now. F1, barrier, might and alacrity, which is very nice. This is the gear set. As you can see, we run the Sage Amulet, which has maximum power, maximum condition damage, then some vitality to stay alive, which is really needed because if we die we are useless, of course. 20k HP pool is very huge. Then we also have some healing power, which stacks with the barrier, of course. Healing power will boost your barriers. Then I run Relic of the Flock, grant barrier to yourself and nearby allies after you use a healing skill. 2k additional barrier, you see the additional barrier from the flock rune, relic, sorry, not rune. And then also, of course, this has a 10-second internal cooldown. The healing skill Sand Flare is a 30-second cooldown, but this cooldown can be bypassed a bit with the alacrity from this trait. So whenever we get barrier, we get alacrity, and alacrity will recharge our skills faster. So I think the Relic of the Flock doesn't lose a lot of its value because of the high cooldown of the Sand Flare. The rune is the Rune of the Lynx. It gives us some power and condition damage to do more damage. So, and also most importantly, the 25% movement speed, because this class has like 0 mobility. And so, unless you can properly use your Spectral Walk and maybe use your Summon Fleshworm properly, I will explain later how. Then we run Staff, Pistol and Warhorn. On the Staff we run Sigil of Doom for some extra poison, which is nice damage and also healing reduction on the enemies, most importantly in PvP. and then Sigil of Revocation. On hit, remove a boon. Additional boon removal, basically. Then we have Energy and Escape here. Escape, remove movement impairing conditions from yourself when swapping to this weapon while in combat, so it's very nice to remove cripple, chill and immobilize from yourself. And here we have a extra 25% endurance whenever we swap to this weapon. Let's take a look at the weapon's skills. The staff out attack is a piercing projectile, so it can be mitigated by any projectile mitigation. And also it will grant a lot of life force for every target you hit. It's not to be underestimated. The skill 2 is the equivalent to your dodge mark, the mark of blood. It applies bleeding on the enemies, life force on you, and also unblockable, damage, and so on. Chill Blaze is very strong because it deals a decent amount of damage and also applies chill for quite a long time and also poison for a very long time. So use it wisely. It should be used on enemies which are healing themselves or maybe are trying to rest and so on. Putrid Mark is your highest damage skill on this staff. It will also transfer 3 conditions from you to enemies, and it's a big AoE in front, nice damage, removes conditions. I usually do this when I am blinded because it will bypass the blindness by transferring it, so it's kinda nice to hit. It's like your safe hit skill to do damage. Then your skill 5 deals 0 damage because it is a CC, but still it's an AoE fear, which is very huge to use when the enemies are stomping your allies or reviving their allies. On the pistol we have an out attack which causes torment. It's a projectile. The skill 2 is a quick volley of projectiles. You see, every volley applies torment and vulnerability. It also pierces and grants you a lot of life force if you hit all of it on multiple targets. The skill 3 applies poison, weakness, and also stun in an AoE around the target. Is very strong and you should use it before your skill 2, so you are sure to hit your skill 2. You go skill 3 and then skill 2 while they are stunned. Your skill 4 from the Warhorn is an unblockable fear, which synergizes kinda nicely with the staff 5, which is also unblockable fear, and is very needed to CC the enemies, disrupt them, removing their stomp or disabling their revives to the other enemies of yourself, of course. Then your skill 5 is a lot of swiftness and also pulsing damage around you, and this damage will also grant you some life force and deal damage around you. The damage is not that good, but still you will hit them. You will remove blind from yourself if you have. You will remove Aegis from the enemies if they have Aegis, and also you will heal for a bit of the damage you do with the Siphon health. The healing skill is Sand Flare, which heals us a bit and also grants us some barrier, and also a minor barrier is applied to our allies, and also you will remove a boon from enemies and convert it to 3 stacks of torment. This is a very strong healing skill. However, you can also use Well of Blood because it applies a big heal at the start only on yourself, and then every pulse will heal you and also the allies, and then these additional pulses also will revive allies because of this trait, and then you will also apply regeneration on your allies. However, I think since the cooldown is so high, it's not worth it. You should just go barrier because barrier also removes conditions, applies might, alacrity, so you should just stick to Sand Flare in my opinion. But still, if you feel like you would need more additional heals on AoE and also AoE revivals, you should go Well of Blood. I would not recommend it though. A very important utility skill is the Well of Darkness, because the cooldown is not that high and also it deals a decent amount of damage. It pulses, is a combo field dark which can be blasted, of course, and then also most importantly it helps us to survive because it applies chill and blindness. Chill is so strong and very annoying to deal with. It will apply this condition which basically removes by 66%, which is huge, the enemy movement speed and also their skill recharge rate, most importantly. So if the enemies are chilled, their skills will recharge later and you will survive more, and also you will blind them so they will miss their attacks. Like 5 pulses is a lot because 5 attacks ideally are missed because of this. The other utility skill which I would strongly recommend using is Spectral Walk. You press it and then you have this buff here, which you can press it again and then you go back to the initial position on when you used the Spectral Walk, which is huge to kite the enemies. Like you're about to run away, the enemies chase you, and then you press it again, you go back and you basically kite and deny every damage by them. Also, it is a break stun, it gives you a lot of swiftness and it will remove conditions from yourself every 2 seconds and convert them to life force. The cooldown is kinda high, but you can imagine how many tricks you can do with this. You go Spectral Walk, you run away, the enemies chase you, you go back, you get healed by your guardian if you have it, or you just reset, you heal yourself, you wait some seconds to get your skill to come up again, and so on. So, in my opinion, Well of Darkness and Spectral Walk are mandatory, so you could not skip them, in my opinion. And the last utility skill, you can choose between Well of Power. This is very strong because it will convert conditions to boons for you and also your allies. And this is kinda needed if you are fighting many conditions classes on the enemy team. However, I found myself most of the time using the Summon Flesh Worm, which is an additional stun break. By the way, also the Well of Blood is Well of Power, sorry, is a break stun, I forgot to say, but the worm is kinda strong because you can be fighting here, the enemies are bursting the shit out of you, you are about to die, you press it and you teleport to it, you break stun and you immediately can heal yourself, and also you just repositioned very far away from the enemies and you are in a safe spot. If you don't want to run the Summon Flesh Worm, which is sometimes not needed, you could also run the Trail of Anguish, which is an additional boon removal, stability, swiftness and still break stun, and also some damage dealing with the boon conversion to torment and also the burning application. However, I would not recommend it. I found sometimes myself running Corrosive Poison Cloud because many times I had some rangers playing longbow in the enemy team, or maybe the Dead Eyes, which play rifle and they hit super hard. You press it, you get some weakness on yourself and it's okay, but this field you see will block any projectile, so you are very safe against rangers, Dead Eyes, or like maybe Dragon Hunter with the longbow, unless they use the skill 3 or the skill 5, which are not projectiles. And also this field will apply weakness on the enemies, which is huge, less damage done to you thanks to weakness, and also their endurance regeneration is lowered by 50%, and also it will apply a lot of poison. So the choices are, in my opinion, Well of Power if running against condition classes, Flesh Worm if you run against Dragon Hunters or some classes which have many CC which lock you in place, like the Elite Trap from the Dragon Hunter. You press the Summon Flesh Worm, you teleport to it, and basically you will dodge every damage done to you. Then we can go Corrosive Poison Cloud if you have enemies which rely a lot on the projectile to do damage. Otherwise, you can go maybe Spectral Armor for additional life force and some break stun and protection, and also the cooldown is kinda low, but most importantly you get a lot of life force by this whenever you are hit, once every second. Then you can also go Spectral Ring, which is very nice because it CCs a lot your enemies and it applies protection on you when you pass it through it for the first time. And also it's like a ring of fear and is unblockable, so the enemies cannot pass through it without being feared. So basically this field will last for 5 seconds, meaning that for 5 seconds, if you place it properly, like in a choke point, unless the enemies come to you and get feared, you are kinda immune to every damage because they will not run to you if they don't want to get feared. And if they get feared, you should fear them more with your skill 4 from the Warhorn, the skill 5 from the staff, your skill F4 which is an AoE fear, and so they will be disabled for a lot of time and they will die hopefully from your teammates. The elite skill is the Ghastly Breach, because the other elite skills are just bad. The only good elite skills on Necromancer is the Chilled to the Bone, but it's for Reaper and we cannot use it on Scourge yet. Maybe it will be changed. The Ghastly Breach is a huge AoE around you, which pulses Might and also Burning on the enemies and Slow, and also will convert 1 boon per second to Torment, which is huge. The cooldown is not even that big, so I think it's worth it and very strong to remove additional boons from enemies and deal a lot of damage. I usually try to place this on enemies which go down, or maybe if my allies go down, I try to teleport them to me with the F4 and then cast under my feet like the Well of Darkness and the Ghastly Breach, so the enemies, when they try to disable me while I'm resting my ally, they will get a lot of damage and blindness and chill and slow, burning, torment, and they get might and so on. So try always to exploit every AoE you can to its maximum power. Then let's cover the F1, F2, F3 and F4, F5. The F1 is an AoE which applies some torment on the enemies and also will apply barrier, and so with the barrier you also get alacrity and the conditions removal. The F2 will convert a condition to boons to nearby allies and also to ourselves, and these apply of course to every sand shade you have up. So you see F1, 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 I press F2, every one of them will pulse the F2, the F3, the F4 and the F5. This is how the shade mechanics work. The F3 will apply a lot of barrier like 2k near the shades and also near yourself, very strong, and also the barrier of course will grant you might, remove condition from enemy, from allies and also from yourself, and then also grant alacrity and the barrier itself. The F4 is what we do to revive our allies, to transfer them to us and revive them, and also manually revive them with the F key to revive them manually of course. And also it's an AoE fear around every barrier, every shade you see, you press it and you see every pulse will apply fear. Then we also have the F5, which I already showed you, but by the way this will apply around every shade a pulsing AoE which deals barrier to allies, pulsing barrier, and then at the end it will detonate, applying a lot of torment, a lot of barrier, a lot of damage, protection, and also will remove two boons from allies, from enemies, sorry. It will remove 2 boons from enemies and convert them to conditions. This is a fight where I was focused a lot by the enemy warrior and also the dragon hunter. So as you can see, I run both Worm and Spectral Walk. Here I'm getting CC'd and stunned a lot. I still have Spectral Walk. You see, I teleport out with the Worm. I dodge every damage from them. Then also try to remember where you started your Spectral Walk. I remember I started it on like the stairs. Here I am inside the Dragon Hunter's traps. I'm getting a lot of damage. Then I immediately pressed the Spectral Walk to go back to the cast of the Spectral Walk. And then I just managed to run away. So I dodged a lot of damage there. Also the enemy warrior was running Rampage, which kinda killed me with a lot of CCs. CCs are the weak point on this class, because if you cannot free cast, you are almost useless. So now Ghastly Breach, that guy was about to go down, so I decided to cast it on it. Here I try to fear out the enemy. I managed to do it. I try to survive with the barrier. I go down from the enemy warrior, which was dealing a lot of damage. However, the enemies are not focusing me. Actually, the enemy necromancer went down too. The dragon hunter went down. I get back up, and here it's just 3 versus 1 and we win. There's another fight which shows how strong this Scourge is with his many AoEs. So basically we are chasing down that engineer, and now I cast a big AoE fear from the staff 5. Then I cast my Spectral Ring. You see the enemies are kinda trapped inside it and they can't go down, otherwise they get feared. I also cast inside the ring my Well of Darkness to pulse blindness and chill and do damage. The NG is gone down at this time. And then I cast the Ghastly Breach on them to deal damage, so if they try to rest, which will not happen of course, they get a lot of damage. To do it if they manage to, and then at this point they are all done. This was all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed the new idea. Maybe I will try to cover other builds. Right now I'm just spamming Scourge in PvP. I find it pretty strong in 3v3s. So let me know in the comment if you would like to see any other classes, even if even porco. This is all for today's video. Please let me know in the comments if you would like to see other builds, both for 3v3 or 2v2, or maybe even for the conquest game mode if you play it. I think the Scourge is kinda strong right now in 3v3s because every AoE deals something and it's kinda easy to use. You can really smash your keyboard and press every skill and still be affecting. I know I already said it, but I want to remark it again. As you can see, you have every skill on cooldown because you need all of them. They are all strong, they apply conditions, they support your allies. So your main focus is to support your allies and then to do damage, and also revive your allies and staying alive. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy my content, and see you on to the next video. Have a good evening. Bye!